a lot of other preaching can't communicate. So I'm going to tell you a story that I like to preach in Africa. Is that okay? And this is a parable. Okay, so what that means is I'm not telling you that this is a literal story. It's a parable. I want you to understand that, okay? The story is about a man who was a rich man. He had a big house with 10 rooms, 5 rooms on the top, 5 rooms on the bottom. One day there was a knocking at his door. When he opened the door, you know who was standing there? It was Jesus. He was shining like the sun. And when the man saw Jesus, he got very happy. He said, Jesus, please come into my house. He said, Jesus, I've heard stories about you. I've heard how you bless people. I've heard how you protect people and how you prosper them. And Jesus, I want you to live in my house. So he said, Jesus, if you'll come, I will give you the best room in my house. It's a room upstairs. It's the master bedroom. It has the biggest bathroom. It has the biggest closet. It has the biggest panoramic window looking out across the landscaping. Jesus, come, stay in my house. Well, Jesus is a gentleman. He said, thank you very much. He came inside, he went upstairs, and the man was happy. He thought he had done the right thing. That night there was another knocking at the door. This time it was a terrible knock. And the man thought, I wonder who it could be pounding on my door at this hour. He said, I should probably at least peek outside and see who's there. So he turned the knob of the door and he peeked outside. And you know who was standing there? It was the devil. And when the man saw the devil, he said, oh no, devil, I've heard about you. I've heard how you break into people's lives, how you torment them with fears and tears and addictions and compulsions. Devil, I've heard about you and you're not welcome in my house. And he tried to shut the door. The problem is the devil already had one toe in the door. And this is always how the devil starts. Those of you that have ever had an encounter with temptation, you know how this works. It always begins with a toe. It always begins with something that seems small and insignificant, but the devil never stops with one toe. Soon he had his knee in the door. And then he had his elbow in the door. And then he had his shoulder in the door. Soon he pushed his way into that man's house. The man fought with him with all of his strength, trying to resist. But he was not powerful enough. You know, in your own strength, you cannot defeat the devil, no matter how smart or strong-willed you think you are. And here that man was struggling with the devil all through the night. The devil pouring filthy temptations over him. Finally, the next morning as the sun was rising, the devil slipped out the back door and disappeared. Just about that time, Jesus came down from upstairs. And the man said, wait a minute. I forgot all about you, Jesus. You were here last night. You could have helped me. Together, Jesus, you and me, we could have defeated the devil. Why didn't you come? Didn't you hear the commotion? Jesus said, well, sir. He said, it's true you gave me one room in your house, but there are 10 rooms in this house and the other 9 are yours. The man said, oh, yes. He said, yes, thank you, Jesus. I see my mistake. This is what I'm going to do. As of today, I'm going to split my house with you 50-50. 5 rooms on the top for you, 5 rooms on the bottom for me. Well, Jesus is a gentleman. He said, thank you very much. He went upstairs, and the man was happy. He thought he had done the right thing. That night, you know what happened? Another terrible knock at the door. And do you know who it was outside? Come on, you can help me. You can look silly if I look silly. It was the devil again. And you know what happened? The devil broke in. The devil tormented that man through the night, pouring filthy temptations on him. The man struggled with all of his might, but he wasn't strong enough. And finally, early the next morning, as the sun was rising, the devil slipped out, and just about that time, Jesus came down. This time, when the man saw Jesus, he got angry. He said, Jesus, what is wrong with you? I've been so generous. I've given you 5 of my 10 rooms. Why won't you come to my rescue? What is wrong with you? Jesus said, sir, please calm down. He said, sir, it's true you've given me 5 rooms. but the other 5 rooms belong to you. Oh, yes. He said, you're right, Jesus. I see the problem. He said, Jesus, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to fix this problem right now. He said, as of this day, I'm going to give you all of the rooms in my house except the one where I sleep. 9 rooms for you, 1 room for me. He said, you know, Jesus, there are some things in that 1 room that you wouldn't like very much. There's some things, they're personal things, they're private things, they are adult things. There's things I have up in the ceiling. There's some things I have hidden in the closet. They're mine. They're very personal to me. And Jesus, I'll give you all the other rooms in my house. You can have it all, but this 1 room I have to keep for myself. Jesus is a gentleman. He said, thank you very much. 9 rooms. He went upstairs, and that night it happened all over again. A terrible knocking at the door. The devil breaking in, tormenting that man all through the night, pouring filthy temptations all over him. As the sun was rising the next day, the devil slipped out the back door. And here came Jesus. And this time when the man saw Jesus, he began to cry. I see so many people crying like this at the altar. Sometimes it's more of a pity party. It's, Jesus, why won't you help me? I've done everything I know to do. I've been so generous to you. I go to church on Sunday. I even put money in the offering. Why is it that I still struggle? Why is it that I'm not delivered? He was weeping. Jesus put his arm around him. He said, sir, let me explain something to you. It's true, you've given me 9 rooms in your house. But the title deed of this house is still in your name. You are the master of the house. And I have been invited to live here as your guest. Jesus said, listen, if you're the master of the house, then you must be the protector of the house. You must be the defender of the house. He said, sir, listen, instead of inviting me to stay in your house, give your house to me. And I'll invite you to stay in my house as my guest. Suddenly the light went on. The man realized he'd been doing it all wrong. He reached into his pocket. He got the keys to his house. He handed them to Jesus. He said, here, Jesus, take it. Every room, every door, every window, every blade of grass, every closet, every bit of the attic, it's all yours. Well, Jesus is a gentleman. He said, thank you very much. He took the keys. He went up to his room that night. You know what happened? Another terrible knocking. And do you know who it was standing there? And the man already knew it was about to happen. He'd been through this so many times before. He'd been through so many of these nights, these sleepless nights, these nights full of torment and temptation. And it felt as though he didn't even have control of his own hand. It was trembling, but it was reaching out for that doorknob. He was just about to open the door. Just about that time, he felt a tapping on his shoulder from behind. And he turned, and do you know who was standing there? It was Jesus. He was shining like the sun. He said, sir, please excuse me. I believe this house belongs to me. I will answer the door. He pushed the man out of the way. And Jesus didn't peek outside to see who was there. Oh, no. He threw the door open and he said, who's there? And you know who it was. It was the devil. But when the devil looked up and saw Jesus, it wasn't what he had been expecting. He looked at Jesus. He looked at the number on the house. He scratched his horn. He looked at Jesus. He looked at the number. Jesus number, Jesus number, Jesus number. It didn't make any sense. Very carefully, he backed away and he bowed himself low to the ground. He said, please excuse me, sir. I think I've come to the wrong house.